Hello, this is Starlight Studios, and whatever I was trying to do before wasn't really working, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do this the other way. Unfortunately, I'm gonna keep on trying to figure out other things that's gonna work. For some reason, when I held my phone sideways, it wasn't like rotating. I thought it was going to do that. I don't know if that's something with the phone. I don't know if that's something with Instagram. I don't know if other people experience that problem, so, if you know what's going on with that, I don't know. I recently found out about this interesting device that holds your phone for you, but if the problem is with the phone, then that's not going to help me in that situation. So I'm going to have to keep on using my thinking cap in order to fix that. We'll see. The last couple of sketches I've been doing have been a lot of practice work, and I realized that my original intention was to get back into portraiture, so I'm going to actually be doing some portraiture today, which is a little bit different than what I've been doing lately. And this is me translating this into a different size, but I'm definitely going to take myself back to the basics on this one because um, let me make that smaller. So the idea here, especially because it's not a sketch, this is a drawing. You definitely want to draw or sketch lightly. The approximate size, the approximate frame. You want to see the final picture in your mind. Um, I'm gonna just draw a couple uh, lines in order to get what gonna have across. Nothing specific. Nothing too. I'm not over committing to any of my lines, any of my shapes. Um, that's looking about right, I guess. Um, so that's the you just kind of want to figure out how much space your drawing is gonna take. You want to get that oval for the chest. And this is pretty much um, a standard way of drawing. I've talked about this before, but uh, I learned pretty traditional. So it's kind of nice to remind myself like how to draw. It's kind of a strange thing to say, but I've been using many other techniques, and going back to a more standard way of drawing can be helpful. This is why it's actually a good idea to learn some of the basics, because in the end they end up being very useful. Whether you end up using them or not, they always end up being useful. So I highly recommend people learn the structure, learn some anatomy, learn some construction, which is what I'm doing now. You really want to focus on your shapes, which is what I'm doing now. You want to kind of eyeball where everything is, where it's again that's basically what I'm focusing on here. Um, so the first thing I notice here, and I'm going to make a couple notations. Excuse me. I'm gonna make a couple notations as I am drawing. The first thing I notice here is her entire body is at a tilt. So that line of symmetry, which usually would go into the center, actually goes off to the side like this and bends the entire body. Her face actually goes in the opposite direction, which it actually makes for a very good picture, and creates that S shape that us artists like so much. Like I said, you just want to get a couple basic concepts, a couple basic ideas down, and you're going to be fixing the overall picture later. Right now, I'm not really getting into the details. I'm just getting into the structure, the layout, if you will, the overall general look of the drawing. And I'm going to be getting into the actual drawing at a later date. As a matter of fact, I don't know how long I'm going to be working on this. I have a good amount of time today. I was trying to start something earlier. As a matter of fact, I've been thinking about doing longer sitting, so we'll see. I'll get I'll give an assessment to how I'm feeling as I go. I probably mentioned this before, but sometimes, my back has a tendency of hurting, so we'll see how I feel in a couple of minutes after sitting and working. It does feel good to be working again, so I will say that. One day I just decided to start working again, and you know what? It does feel pretty great. So I'm glad that I picked up a pencil and started sketching. So it does feel good. It's very relaxing, just thinking about my art. I really appreciate anatomy. I really appreciate a figure drawing. I really appreciate, the beauties of this world, which is why I'm an artist. I need to fix that. See, this is what I mean. One example why you need to draw things lightly. It's easier to fix mistakes at this level. You don't want to draw too dark, so you can fix your mistakes before setting them into pencil. Haha, get it. Since her body is a tilt, her chest will also be at a tilt, so try to remember that. And although the body is not perfectly symmetrical, it's still something to keep your eye on at the level of the chest, the level of the bust is what I decided to call that before. I suppose it's okay to say breasts as well. I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. Maybe it's my autism, maybe it's my ADHD, but I just feel like I just don't know how to talk to anybody anymore. Everything is wrong. Nobody does anything right anymore. Everybody gets upset about everybody else. As soon as you try something, somebody somewhere is upset. As a matter of fact, that happened to me not that long ago. I am still offering critiques, despite what somebody had a negative comment had to say about my critique. I've been doing this for a long time, and I spoke about this very clearly in my video before. Do not compare my work to anybody else's work. That's not what a critique is. If you're comparing my work to somebody else's work, that is not a critique. That is not what a critique is. So you do not understand the purpose of a critique if that's what you're doing. My work is my work. Somebody else's work is somebody else's work. My work might be this way on purpose. For the most part, I would consider myself a realistic artist, but I'm also I'm also a conceptual artist. So my focus is on abstract conceptualism and creativity over perfect perfect anatomy, a perfect structure, and a lot of people like to do that. I want to bring in something different in my work. I want to bring in something expressive in my work. I want to bring in something impressionistic in my work. My paintings, for example, I paint with really vibrant colors. When I'm drawing, I like to draw with exaggerative lines. When I color, especially with pencil, I like to use dark lines. I like to use hyper contrast. Those are all signatures of my work. Um, just like anybody else who's an artist, I know all the anatomy, I know all the structures, I know all the construction. As you can see, I know my construction, I know my anatomy, and I know my proportions. So I've been doing this for a really long time, guys. Um, and whatever. I'm not a big channel, but who cares? It doesn't matter. Most of those followers aren't really all that real anyway. If you want to figure out who's following somebody, notice how many likes on a video they have. It's not about the number of followers at the big number at the top, because there's bots and there's fake accounts and there's follow for follow, and there's other artists that are probably following the other artists because they like the work, and they're probably going to use it as a reference or an idea or creative outlet, or maybe they only look at them once a month, maybe once a week, every other day. Who knows? But the people who are actually following an account are going to be the people that like and comment on the post. And who knows, that might be bots as well, because I've been reading a lot about that. So whatever those numbers are, they're not going to be nearly that big. I promise you. I know some pretty big accounts, and they're not Vuku billionaires, Vuku millionaires. They're just not. Like they have a lot of followers, but they're not really making that much money from it. Only a good amount of people are going to their Patreon. Only a small group of people are doing something else. I was just watching a live of another big artist the other day. He only had like 10 people watching his live video. 10 to 20. I think at some point it hit 30. And a lot of people jump in onto specific people's lives, maybe a couple hundred, maybe even a couple thousand. But a lot of those people, they leave right away, and they're jumping in and they're jumping out and they're jumping. Like, guys, it's not about the follows. It's not about the art. It's not about anything like that. It's not about their social media. It's not about their social media presence. A critique is its own individual thing that's outside of anything else. As a matter of fact, you don't have to be an artist at all in order to be able to be a good critique. And I already said that. Additionally, one of the best critiques in my entire life has been my own mom. Okay, and I wouldn't necessarily call her an artist in any mention of the word. And she was raised by her mom, my grandmom, who was an artist. So, and she's a phenomenal painter. In many regards, she's probably even better than me. I would probably call her better than myself. Her paintings, in particular, are absolutely breathtaking. They look like real. She likes to paint tall ships, and they look like tall ships. She likes to paint animals, and they look like animals. She's absolutely incredible. She does watercolor, which I've never really gotten into. She does acrylic, which I actually kind of struggle with. I've been getting into acrylic a little bit more recently, but I fell in love with oil paint. I fell in love with oil paint and fell in love with it right away. I absolutely love the fact that you can edit the work and edit the work and edit the work. A lot of my work ends up being just a lot of hard work rather than natural talent. I think you'll find that is true with a lot of people. I was talking about this other artist I was watching the other day, and he was making plenty of quote-unquote mistakes as he was animating a video. Like, he was making plenty of mistakes. Most work is about hard work, not natural talent. You'd be surprised how much natural talent actually does exist. Most of these absolutely incredible, beautiful drawings, they took hours and hours and hours and hours of editing and working, and I think I finally realized what really separates my work from somebody else's. And I look at some of my older art, the ones that I truly, truly, truly love were the ones that took hours and hours and hours of work, and usually I don't have that kind of patience. I would call myself a sketch artist, a doodle artist, a quick draw artist. I'm drawing a lot of references. I'm drawing a lot of poses. I'm drawing a lot of sketches. A lot of my work is not supposed to be finished work. I was doing some anatomy drawings the other day. I kept it really simple. I could have done way better, but I don't have that kind of patience because of my ADHD. I'm not going to sit there because that's not the point of the drawing, the point of the reference, or the point of the study. When I watch videos online, I hate when they're ridiculously long, so I want to try to do the same thing. I'm gonna keep it interesting, which is why I talk kind of on the fast side, so to keep people interested. You know, like, hey, I'm gonna move on from the next subject to the next subject to the next subject. I actually tend to talk to a lot, which I'm trying to figure out a good balance because in some of my videos I don't talk at all. And I need to figure out like at what time I need to stop. I need to figure how much time I want to dedicate into a specific topic. There's a lot for me to figure out, and you know what? I can tell you what I don't need to figure out. I don't need to figure out a critique because I spent 4 years in art school critiquing every single day, and that's way more than 4 years worth of knowledge. If you're doing something every single day, multiply it by 10, guys. Multiply it by 10. If you're doing something every single day, if you're doing something every single day, multiply your experience by 10. So 30 years, okay, 40 years. If you're doing something on your own without assistance or teacher or guide or a mentor or other artists to bounce you off ideas, then it's just going to be your ideas and your ideas alone. And will you grow? Yes. You will grow. And that depends on each individual person. But in my experience, if you're doing something completely on your own, then minus your experience by half or less, 1/4, because if there's one thing that college does is it condenses all of those mistakes and shows you how to do it. I could be drawing this picture without using all of these constructions, all of these proportions, all of these shapes. I can be drawing that picture the old-fashioned way. I used to draw pictures the worst way possible. I would start with the head. I would start with the head, and I would work my way down. And to be honest, it just wasn't all that good. So I know firsthand that these proportions, these construction lines, these shapes, sorry about that cutoff there, guys. I know firsthand that everything I'm talking about is absolutely correct. And just because if I can or cannot do those things personally, doesn't mean that I'm wrong. Somebody really thought they were trying to tell me something. Look, you're not. I have 20 years of experience. I'm way too confident in my work. I am way too confident in my work. If I was a younger person, then I probably would have been upset. But I am way too confident in my work. I've been doing way too long. I'm not about to slow down or stop or anything. Okay, I'm going to do another critique, and I'm going to do another good job because I know I did a good job in the other critique. And let me tell you another thing. I paused for a moment, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe they're right. And that's another thing. No matter how confident you are, a good artist always evaluates their work. Always. They always evaluate their work anyway. I watched every single one of my videos to see how I could have done better. Every single day. I watched them multiple times. But he made me like, oh, maybe I do need to look at that video. Maybe I did something wrong. But I didn't look at it at the side of, oh, maybe I should fix it because this guy told me to. I looked at it as, hey, maybe I can improve. Maybe I could have done a better critique. And that's a difference of the way you look at something. And when I watched that video, I'm like, I don't know. I did a good job. I don't know what you're talking about. And you know what? Normally I wouldn't have done it. But I was bold enough to say, hey, you know what? I don't know what you're talking about, but I did a good job. And have a nice day. All right? So, in order to be an artist, probably rule number 1 is to have confidence in yourself. If you don't have confidence in yourself, then you need to work on it. That's the rule. That's the first rule in being artist. Because every single person in this world is going to try to take you down. Okay, so I don't know why I even got into that. I guess it was bothering more than I was letting on. But now it's out of my system, so let's move on. And you know what, guys? If you have a question and something doesn't make sense to you and you don't know why I did something, then ask. Because I am a professional. Whether anybody else thinks I'm not or I am or not does not matter. I am a professional. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I can say that without most confidence. Why am I professional? Because I have worked. Why am I professional? Because I've gotten paid. Why am I professional? Because people like my work. Why am I a professional? Because I went to a professional art school that not a lot of people get in. Why am I a professional? Because I have worked for it. Alright? And there are abstract artists and conceptual artists and I forget the word at the moment. What's the word for modern art? Well, be careful because modern art and contemporary art and modern art are actually two different things. Modern art generally, and by my research anyway, modern art generally refers to the 1980s to the 2000s. I think there's a specific year that it refers to. I think it's something like that. Maybe 1970s. I don't think it's that early. Like somewhere around I want to say somewhere around 1980s to the 2000s. That's the modern art period. Not now. Now is referred to as the contemporary art movement. What's happening right now is contemporary. And each era is approximately each era has its specific time frame. So contemporary is always right now, but modern is a specific art style that's not referred to right now. I've actually seen a lot of people get that mixed up, and it's easy to get that mixed up because in my own head, the word modern art would mean right now, and maybe switch those. Actually, just want to make sure I'm not getting that backwards myself. I do have a tendency of getting things backwards, but that's because of my dyslexia. I know what I'm saying is correct, but it might be the wrong way. And anytime I pause for a minute, I look up. I'm pretty sure I'm right, though. Usually I am right about what I just said, but I just like to kind of verify it sometimes because, especially when I'm giving a specific definition like that, it just helps. And I think sometimes they are used interchangeably, but I'm just talking about the actual definition. So let's see. Like if I look up modern art time period, I'm pretty sure it's right. Yeah, so 1860s actually. I didn't know that. So before. Okay, so staying corrected a little bit. So yeah, the modern art includes artistic work produced during the periods extending roughly, and even they say roughly, and yeah, I thought so for about 100 years. So most eras, most time periods are roughly 100 years. So I was right about that. So 1860 actually. I didn't know that. That's interesting. I didn't know that part of it into the 1970s. So what's after the postmodern maybe? So what's after 1970s? We didn't really learn about all of this stuff, which is funny because I went to art school and we didn't really learn about a lot of this stuff. I love art history, so pardon me for having an art history moment. Art periods. So we have ancient period, classic period, medieval period, Renaissance period, Baroque period, one of my personal favorites. And each of them are approximately 100 years. The Baroque period is actually 150 years, which is interesting. And that one, and the Renaissance period was quite long. 250 years, roughly. No, the medieval period was even longer. 900 years. Interesting. So maybe not. Maybe there's sub periods. There's probably sub periods. Because most periods are 100 years. From my memory. And I'm not going to get too much into art period. Yeah, there are semi-periods. So there's the Greco-Roman period, which is about 400 years, and the religious movement, which is like 600 years. The Renaissance movement, which is about 300 years. The ornate Baroque period, which I didn't know. Oh, interesting. Ornate Baroque period. I didn't know it had a longer name than that. Logical neoclassicism. So this is where I actually don't know a lot about it. I'm not really familiar. Logical neoclassicism. I'll have to look up that specifically. Like, what does that refer to? Passionate romantic. I know some about that, but like again, what would be considered passionate romantic? I'm not entirely sure. I'm extremely familiar with Greek Roman, medieval, definitely Renaissance, absolutely Baroque. I think I am familiar with neoclassicism, but at the same time, I'm not. I'm not as strongly familiar as I would like to be. Art movements and the electric modern, eclectic modern art, which is 1900s to 1960s. Maybe that's the one I was talking about. I was probably referring to the eclectic modern art period, not the 1860 to the 1970 period. I was probably referring to this. Anyway, contemporary art is 1960 to present. But is that because it's called contemporary art, or is contemporary art going to move? Like, what's going to happen in 100 years? Well, it's not necessarily 100 years. Like, what's going to happen after the contemporary movement? At what point will we change the art movement? Like, will we always be in the modern art period? Like, I'm 80s. I'm 80s. So in 1980, will we be in a different period? And this is 1960 on, so that would be 19. That would be 19. So in 2060, will we be in a different art period? How do we determine that? That's interesting. Anyway, modern art refers to approximately 100 years ago. It's not now. So I was right about that. I was a little bit off on my dates. Pardon my dates. Anyway. I'm drawing in a very traditional way. This is not necessarily the Renaissance method, actually, because the Renaissance method, what you will find is a lot of works in the Renaissance method were actually out of proportion. So the proportions didn't really happen until later. I'm not entirely sure when that was, but sometime after the Renaissance. And mainly, and one of the biggest proponents to the proportion and the realistic style was that Da Vinci was one of my personal favorites. And then we kept on moving into the hyperreal and the realistic quality of work way after the Renaissance period. Some of the works in the Renaissance period in particular, definitely a little bit more realistic than others, but they were very expressive at the same time. For example, my personal painter has always been Rembrandt, who's expressive and impressionistic, but also very realistic at the same time. So it's just really hard to categorize art, much harder than it seems. And usually most arts in my experience fall under more than one category. Nothing really falls under any one category. I suppose if you had to categorize excuse me. I suppose if you had to categorize each individual piece, you would look for the majority of the work and call it under that category, I suppose. I would make the extra notation to say, okay, this is realistic but with an expressionistic style or something like that. This to try to get as close as possible to describing the work. And at the end of the day, guys, art is art. You know, like, I'm not really sure what people are looking for sometimes. A part of us is looking for something that looks exactly what it looks like. And yeah, that is a kind of art. That is a kind of art. But there's many different kinds of art. People, for example, love anime. I can tell you, anime is not proportional. Anime is not realistic. Most anime books are, which is pretty ironic. I have a how to draw anime book, and they try to keep things pretty proportional in those. But if you notice that they're still not the best, like if you buy a normal how to draw book and a anime how to draw book, you will see a difference. You will see the difference between the how to draw books. And if you buy multiple how to draw books, then you will see many different styles on how to draw books. For example, figurative drawing tends to use gesture drawing instead of anatomy. And they try to stick to the anatomy as close as possible, but the focus is on the gesture, on the movement, on the lines that you're making. So I'm a figure artist. As a figure artist, I focus on the gesture. So, not necessarily the anatomy. I'm not an anatomy artist. So you can't compare me to anybody else because I don't do that kind of work. And like I said before, I don't know if I would I don't even know if I would do that work. I prefer having an expression with my work. I don't want something just to look like something. I want to find an emotion, a feeling, some kind of representation, a story, if you will, within the work. Like, why am I drawing this? I think that's much more interesting than just drawing a pretty picture. But anyway. This is gonna fall under basically practice. I'm trying to practice my portraitures. It's been a long time since I've drawn portraiture, and I'm just trying to get back into it. Trying to flex my art muscles, if you will, and trying to break my own abilities. That doesn't sound very good. I'm trying to increase my abilities. Trying to get to another level. Trying to level up. Trying to turn into a Super Saiyan artist. Hiya. It's time to take off the weights. That was a funny joke the other day. More or less an inside joke, I suppose. Her shoulder's not that jagged. More like that. Now, whenever you're drawing the shoulder, make sure that there's a little bit of a bump. There's a little bit of a bump. No matter how smooth the shoulder is, the shoulder pops out. So pay attention to that. Pay attention to that point where it becomes round again. So it slants like a perfect curve, but not a perfectly perfect curve. That sounds weird. But it actually there's a divot. There's a divot here, and then it bumps right back out again for that tricep. So try to look for that S. Try to look for that S everywhere you go, because it's always there. Even if it's subtle. It's usually pretty subtle, but it's always there. And now I'm going to draw that highlight, which is going to make that pop. Make that pop even more. There. So, I'm not going to get into too much. I was kind of getting into it. Oh, man, it's so easy. Just like, I'm really enjoying this. It's so... I love drawing. I don't know why I stopped. I'm trying to get myself back into it. I really am. And for someone to be so negative towards me, maybe that's why it's upsetting. That's probably why it's upsetting me. It normally wouldn't. I'm finally getting back into art again, and this is a complete jerk. Like, keep your negative comments to yourself. You never know how it's going to affect somebody else. I'm trying not to think about it, because the more I think about it, the more upset it's making me. So I'm trying to move on. So, on another note, if anyone would like a critique, let me know. I will give you a very professional, very educated, very well-informed critique with years of experience from my perspective. I'll do an extremely good job. You would not be disappointed. And you know, if you're a big art account and you happen to be watching my video, then please. If you think that I can't critique your work, give me a shot. You'd be surprised. I've seen a lot of amazing artists, but I always feel like it could be even better. And I think it takes somebody with a specific skill set in order to critique somebody else's work, especially if they are quote unquote better than me. Which I think I'm pretty good. So especially when I'm really trying. Yeah, the majority of my work, I'm not really trying all that much, guys. I went to a professional art school for 4 years. an independent study since then. Not to mention some college classes as well. So, uh, anyway, I don't need to prove myself to anybody. But I suppose I felt like the need to say that because those are indeed my credentials. I'm not just some guy saying he knows about art, guys. Alright, I have some heavyweight credentials behind me. And I hope I do gain more following and people that will support my work so I can make it through this full time. I would love to be able to do this full time. I'm offering tutoring classes for adults. I'm offering critiques, again, for adults. I have interviews on Spotify, so if you're interested in that, let me know. I do spotlights to help other people gain momentum as an artist. I've gained a little momentum myself. I'm not as small as I used to be. I have almost 800, 900 followers now. Not quite 900, 850, I think. I'm getting there. I have a good following on Spotify. So, I think I am in a pretty good position. Obviously, I could do better. I'm not a media artist, obviously. I'm trying to learn how to do this self-promotion thing. I'm getting a little bit better at it. If you're a business and you want to sponsor me, let me know. I'll help boost your product. But I like to boost products that I believe in. So we'll talk. I'm not just gonna blindly endorse anything. I would only endorse things that I believe in. For example, I have a Microsoft Surface tablet and I love it. I bought a previous tablet before, and I'm not gonna give it a review or anything like that. I might give this Surface tablet a review. We'll see. And I don't know if it's a problem with my internet or what, but there's definitely some issues with it. But for the most part, I'm just glad that I have a tablet at all. So now that I've had one for a while, maybe I'll get a new one and then review it, and we'll see. I don't know if I want to get into that or not. But I was talking about doing some sponsorships. I was planning on doing some. What do they call that? I can't think of the word. I was planning on doing some affiliated marketing and stuff like that. I did do a review on some pastels I got a while back. They are amazing. I would love to do a review on any kind of art material, please. If you're art representative and you want people to do a review on art materials, please send them my way. Not only will it save me a lot of money, but I'll gladly do a review so other people will know what. Sometimes good art supplies can be really hard to find, so those reviews can be really helpful. Especially when you're talking about a very niche kind of product. Only certain people are going to buy those artistic products in the first place, and you want to make sure if you're going to spend good money on it, that it's going to be worth it. So, I highly recommend getting an artist to review it and give them an honest review. I'll give the most honest review I can, because that's just the way I am. That's probably one of the reasons why the person was trying to be a jerk to me, because if I think that there's something that could be improved, I'm not going to say it. I'm not just going to be like, oh, this is the greatest work ever, blah, 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 blah. Your product is so amazing. No, I'm going to say what's good and bad about it. That way people can make up their minds. So that's a review. Not a blatant disregard for any kind of personal opinion. So there's muscle. There are muscles here in the chest. We talked about these before. They're not always well defined, but they're always there. So it's not just flat, 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 or circular, circular, circular. The chest can be kind of bumpy, and this is the chest here, not the bust. I'm referring to the actual chest. So I think it got a pretty good start. It's definitely looking better than my other sketch the other day. I'm definitely getting better at this translating. That looks about right. Ah, wow, that looks about right. Good job. Good job, me. Now, is that solder? Roughly. This looks like a little bit more. The minor fixes. There, that looks better. Shoulders are pretty wide, guys, so be careful about that. Even on a woman. Shoulders can be pretty wide. And the shoulder here and the shoulder here is roughly the length of the arm. Oh, not long enough. There. We got that elbow. Silly elbow. Hello, how are you? I don't think I'm making that too wide. Something like that. And then right here is about where the belly begins. Somewhere around here. And then for a woman, there's like a drastic change, so it's like right around here. Something like that. Hello, how are you? That solder is still bothering me. I think it's because I need to lower it. Oh, that looks way better. And you'll be surprised, when you critique somebody else's work, you also pay attention to your own work. So not only does it help somebody else, but it helps me. So, practicing that critique will help me also. So, of course I do it with my own work. I would be crazy not to. Of course I want to be the best artist I can be. Of course I'm going to critique my own work. And anybody else is welcome to critique my own work too. Just remember what a critique is for. And before you do the critique, ask me directly. I would like to give my permission first. I'm not just going to randomly critique somebody's work without talking to them first. That's ridiculous. That looks way better. Sometimes you just have to trust the process. For real. You just have to trust the process. Actually, that arm is a little bit rounder. But it still pops out. So make sure that you have this shadow underneath the shoulder to make it look like it's popping out. Because it does indeed pop out. So whether the arm is very round or not, that shoulder always pops out. So pay attention to that. I just need to change the curvature of the arm just a little bit because of the way it's the way she's moving her arm, and then the shoulder drops here and bends a little bit lower here. So the bend does show up. Excuse me, but it shows up a little bit lower. Excuse me about that. So that little slight adjustment there. Always trust the reference over your own knowledge. Sometimes when you fix something, it makes it look worse. So sometimes the feel or the expression is more important than the anatomy. Or in this case the optical illusion, which is what a drawing is. A drawing is an optical illusion, so sometimes it's not about knowing anatomy, sometimes it's about knowing the art of drawing itself. What what is the purpose of a drawing? How do you trick the eye into seeing something? How do you create contrast in order to create something that looks pleasing to the eye? How do you use shading techniques in order to give off the impression that something is happening when it may or may not be happening within that drawing? How do you make something look like something when it's not that something? When I have a flat image, how do I make that flat image round? That is all drawing technique, has nothing to do with proportion. So understanding how to draw is just as important as the proportion and the anatomy and the construction itself. Maybe even more important. Anatomy is just a tool, just like anything else. Construction is just a tool, just like anything else. An artist's job is to take these multiple theories and mix them up together and create a artistic idea. Even if that artistic idea is extremely simple, or even if it's extremely complex, all those other things are just tools. Tools in order to create the subject. Remember how long that neck is. Now, because of the way she's standing, it appears that the neck isn't very long, but watch the neck length on the side, that side there, excuse me, that's long. So, the neck is quite long. I've said it before and I'll say it again. To fix that elbow again. Now that I've drawn it long enough, the shape is not quite right. Elbows are notoriously hard to draw. If you know how to draw a good elbow, then I applaud you. Everyone talks about hands, but then those elbows. Can we talk about those elbows? Elbows are very, very difficult to draw. Knees. Can we talk about knees? Knees are very hard to draw. All those body joints. Shoulders can be very difficult to draw. I'm pretty okay with my hands, which is makes me feel very powerful. Now that I have conquered the hand, I shall take over the world. Yeah. Don't forget about how expressive that forehead is. The forehead takes up a good amount of space. The eyes are way down here, like halfway almost. Halfway. Nose. The nose is roughly 1/2, like so. About one eye distance from the eye, diagonal. So the nose is here, and the mouth is here, about 1/2, and then slightly one more half is the chin. So there we go. So now we got our portrait, a bust, if you will, and she's turning on her side. So this her breast here is shaped slightly differently than normal. Anytime a female is turning her body, the form of the circle, first of all, becomes a semicircle, and you really start to see that tear shape I was talking about before. And here on the inside of the breast, you see that S, and you're gonna see that curve. So I talked about this before, but you're really gonna see that curve, and it's not gonna curve out. It's not gonna curve outward. It's actually gonna curve inward, because the chest underneath, this is the chest underneath is round. So it's gonna press into the breast to create a inward line like that, and then it's going to pop out like an S. Look for those S's, or backwards S, and then it's going to curve, creating the bust, and inward again, and then another S. Now, since he's raising her arm, it's going to lift the breast ever so slightly. Since he's not raising her arm high, she's raising it mid, so it's just going to lift it slightly. So that's going to give it a slightly different look as well. But yeah, breasts can actually be pretty difficult to draw, but once you understand their structure, they become a little bit easier. I suppose that's okay to say. I'm just going to say the correct anatomy, and we'll see. The majority of my drawings happen to be females, so I'm just going to use the correct anatomy. I draw both males and females, so it doesn't matter to me. But I'm gonna say the correct anatomy because it's correct, and I prefer to use the better, more correct vocabulary, if nobody minds. This is making me more anxious to think of something else to say. I'm just gonna say the right one. The right word is better. So that's what I'm gonna do. There. That's much better. I think that's a little off. There we go. Don't underestimate the curvature of the breast. I've seen some people make it a little bit too round, and it's not that round. As a matter of fact, the top part here where it meets the chest, it flattens out. It flattens out, and the bust is at the bottom, and it tears inward like that. Well, flat is the wrong word, but slanted. It slants inward like so, and then it creates an arc like that. There, that looks much better. Okay, so I'm still trying to keep my pencil on the light side so I can fix my mistakes later. I can already see a couple already. For example, the arm is much thicker. There, that looks better. About the same width, thickness. Just trying to get some general notations down. Trying to get some shadow down so I know where the shadow is. Trying to get some shading down so I know where the shading is. Trying to get some landmarks down, or body marks down, like that, like so. I think that neck might be just a hair bit longer. Yeah, like that. So even when the neck is scrunchy, it's always longer than you think. It's even longer than I think. That's funny. The neck is elegant and long and very is a very nice structure on the figure. So try to get the neck and the shoulders correct because they're very characteristic of a person. The emotions get carried within the shoulder and the neck. The way you carry your head, for example, the way you're tilting, the way you're curving, the way you're turning your body is all carried within that neck. So it carries a lot of detail, a lot of weight is supported on the neck, quite literally and figuratively. The shoulders, they carry the frame. I think I actually got that arm right. Somebody give me a gold star. I'm pretty sure I got that right. I don't think I need to fix it. We'll see. I'll look at it later when I have a fresh look. Alright, I think it's about time for me to call it. My back is starting to hurt me a little bit. I might do this later on today. We'll see. I think I have a pretty good start. I think this is a good place to stop. I kind of got into some things I wasn't necessarily planning on getting. I guess it was bothering me more than I thought it was. I apologize about that. Anyway, this is portrait number 1. I drew another one the other day, but it wasn't really... I didn't plan it out as much as I would like to. I don't even know what time this is. I don't even know what time signature this is. I've been talking a lot today, so cut my time in half, and that's probably about the drawing time. If I had to guess, probably 30 to 45 minutes. And I would like to think that this entire video is probably an hour. We'll see how long it ends up being. But anyway, let me put... whoops, that doesn't look right. That doesn't look right. Excuse me. That still doesn't look right. Hold on. Oh boy. I've been sitting for too long. Excuse me. Oh boy. Alright, excuse me. Oh man, I was getting really stiff. Alright, so that's what it... let me see. Now that I'm looking at it from far away... What problems do I see? That looks okay. Let me see. Let me try to make a couple notes while I'm thinking about it. I think this is okay. Make a note there. And this should be higher. And this... Will this work? This might work. Let's see. This should be here. I think this should be here. That looks a little bit better. Let me elongate that back. Make a couple minor adjustments before I log out. Some quick. That looks a little bit better. Something like that. And excuse me. And that looks fine. I think the breasts are a little bit lower. I feel so much better just to say the right word. That looks better. And I think that's a little bit lower too. That definitely makes a small difference there. And then the torso. It looks about right. Look, the torso looks about right, I think. This may need to make a small adjustment here by the rib cage. And the rest, that shoulder is not that high. So I need to change that ever so slightly. As a matter of fact, it's like dropping down. So never mind. You can take away that gold star. I suppose I could do it either way. I could raise it. We'll hold on to that for now. We'll see. I think that looks right either way. I might have to look at another arm to see how close I got. So if she is raising it a little bit more. But the only problem is if she is raising her arm more, it's going to change the breast and the pectoral. So we'll see. And I'm not so familiar with the anatomy that I know what that's going to look like without looking at it. I'm going to need a reference. So anyway, this is what I have for so far. I'm going to be definitely making a couple changes as I go. I try to keep it as light as possible so I can make the adjustments. But yeah, this is going to be portrait study number 1, or if you want to count the first one, then I guess it's portrait number 2. The first one was, I feel like the first one was just practice. This is going to be my first official one. The first official portrait study. And I'm going to do some like sketches as well. Just to keep myself loose. I might not do this back to back to back to back. I might just do some sketching tomorrow. Just to keep, remind myself of, do some anatomy drawing, do some figure drawing. I'm gonna mix it up and then go back to this. And then after I do those other works, I'm gonna look at this with fresh eyes. And then I'm gonna be able to see my mistakes better. Because right now, I mean, I did definitely catch a couple of them, but I'm sure that there's others. And my plan is I'm gonna bring this picture to completion. So that's why it's number 1. So the other one I never completed. I only did 3 stages, and I think there's a lot of mistakes I made. So this one, the plan is I'm gonna make this a full drawing. I'm gonna complete it. And I don't usually do that. So this is the first stage of my new plan, which is actually something I started to do back in 2015, but just never really got in there. I ended up doing a whole bunch of sketches. They were completed sketches, but mainly they were still sketches. They weren't studies like this. Maybe working at this size is going to push me to a different level. I don't know. I kind of like it working at this size. We'll see. I didn't do anything with the background. Oh, jeez. I apologize to my painting teacher. Oh, well. I did not think about the what's that called? Oh, man, I've been working for too long. I'm getting tired. The composition. I didn't think about the composition at all. Oh, well. Anyway, this is Starlight Studios. Signing out. Thanks, guys.